Colby Covington is a great fighter. I just think that he's destined for second place. And he's found himself in that predicament where he'll be good, but just not good enough to hold an undisputed title. Because Leon Edwards, in my opinion, is just a cut above Colby Covington. And I think that there's also the element that Colby's been sitting on the shelf collecting cobwebs and dust that will come back to bite him. He's mismanaged his career, and because of it, Leon is going to shut him down and pick up right where he left off against Kamaru Usman and replicate that performance at UFC 296. And I think he's going to take 4 rounds off of Colby and 49-46 him. And I really do understand that Colby is going to be tricky in this fight. There are some things that I'll concede to you will present great issue for Leon that Kamaru Usman didn't bring to the table, but they're very few and far in between. Let's be honest with ourselves. It's a very similar stylistic matchup. It is. And Leon Edwards has defeated the heavy pressure wrestler with high output on the feet that can mix in takedowns, that's willing to bite down on the mouthpiece and get gritty and brawl a little bit. Well, he passed that test with flying colors earlier this year. And I think that people are really forgetting how impressive Leon Edwards was in that trilogy. I think that people are forgetting that his best round was the 5th against the heavy pressure wrestler that never gasses out. And I get it. Usman's a little bit different than Colby. I understand. But Leon Edwards has proved that he can defeat a guy like Colby Covington twice now. All right? Colby Covington has never faced anyone like Leon Edwards, not even close. The best fighter Colby's ever beat is RDA. And he scraped by him 48-47. That's a former lightweight, 35 years old, that couldn't be further from Leon Edwards when it comes to the stylistic matchup that they present. All right? Colby is good. He's great. I think he's a better grappler than Usman. We're going to talk about this. I think that he has a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but ultimately, people are forgetting how good of a win it is to shut down Kamaru and take 4 rounds off of him in the trilogy where Leon was doubted heavily. A lot of you guys don't remember this, but most people were picking Usman to win that trilogy. People were saying Leon got lucky with the head kick. You know, he wasn't really the true champion. A lot of guys win that belt, and they get better just by virtue of being a champion. It just makes them up the ante. Leon probably still had some doubts. He knew that he was getting bested for the majority of their rematch. He knew that he had a lot to prove. He knew that he gassed out. But as soon as you took that man out of altitude, out of Salt Lake City, he proved that he was much better than Usman. He proved that his takedown defense was elite, that his grappling was elite, that his ability to keep distance is elite. And if you look at the guys that Colby Covington has beat, they're old, they're washed up, and they're stationary. And their best days were beyond them. I really don't see how you can pick Colby, given that he's 35, given that he has struggled to beat elite people. It's like this guy doesn't have a single elite win, right? He's only got elite losses. Okay, I'll give it to you. RDA's a good win. But Robbie Lawler, come on, man. That guy was done. He was completely washed at that point in time. Woodley, the guy fought like he was half asleep towards the end of his career. And that was Colby's last finish. But let's be honest, that was a little pity TKO, right? Woodley's body gave out. It wasn't Colby just mashing his ribs with ferocious ground and pound. Yeah, he was popping Woodley around on the ground a little bit. For sure, he was getting the better of him. But his rib popped out. His body gave out. I don't think Leon's body is going to give out. The guy's 32 years old. All right, he's one of the most athletic welterweights on the roster. You're going to bring up Jorge Masvidal? The guy was Mr. Miami. The guy was Mr. Dominoes. He looked like an orangutan, bouncing off of 2 losses, just like Robbie, just like Woodley. Former lightweight. You think that guy is the epitome of an elite fighter? Yeah, he's a dangerous striker, but he's rather one-dimensional. Leon is a much better grappler. Leon is much faster. He's got a better IQ. He just beat Usman twice, man. Look at what Usman did to Masvidal a couple of times. And I think that, yes, Leon is going to struggle a little bit if he gets taken down, because I'll give you this. If you're picking Colby Covington, I'll concede to you that he is the better grappler than Usman, right? Usman takes people down. Back in the day, he was a little bit more effective, but, you know, he just isn't really able to tax people like Colby is. He doesn't make them work as much. Colby takes people down. He threatens submissions. He threatens neck cranks. He's able to get good positions, maintain them, and tee off on people with ground and pound. Usman, people get up from a takedown and they haven't really been effective, right? When guys get up from being taken down by Colby at the end of a round, they look like they've dropped off of a cliff. he is a little bit more suffocating to deal with. Or I should say, he's a lot more suffocating to deal with. But one thing that Colby's never dealt with is a guy that learned how to shut down wrestlers, how to stop them from putting his back up against the fence, how to circle around the cage. All right, you look at the guys that Colby's fighting. Masvidal, a little bit more heavy on his feet. Robbie Lawler, the guy who just brawls forward and plods forward and throws big meaty hooks, right? He's a little bit smaller and weaker at that point in time. Woodley, fighting like he's half asleep. His whole game is like him backing up against the fence. Leon Edwards is like a matador out there. He's circling around all over the place, moving around, cutting people off, sniping them when they're entering the distance. I think Colby's really going to suffer here. And I think that he's going to get picked apart. This guy, we're talking about the grappling. I mean, just think about the striking. I mean, Leon Edwards is just night and day better than anyone Colby's ever faced on the feet. It's not even close. It's not even close, man. We've seen Kamaru go out there and use his threat of the takedown to make fights competitive on the feet, to get going, to actually land a lot of strikes. The guy was really struggling to graze the chin of Leon. And Colby Covington does have a better ability to close the distance with his strikes than Usman, who's a little bit more by the book, right? Usman's a guy that will chuck a couple of singular jabs and then he'll shoot a takedown. Colby, he's more willing to throw punches and bunches at weird angles, right? Looping hooks, overhands. It looks like he's swimming out there when he's closing the distance with his strikes. And that can definitely be a little bit more effective. It's a little more awkward to deal with. But Colby doesn't have a reach advantage this time like Usman did over Leon, right? Colby doesn't have a lot of power in his hands. I don't think Leon has to respect that power from Colby. Yeah, Leon's been hurt a couple of times by Nate Diaz, Barberena, but it's only a few times, and people act like this guy's chin is terrible, right? I saw Usman land a couple of solid shots. Didn't land a lot of them, but every single solid shot he landed on Leon hardly got an effect. And we see Colby Covington out here getting dropped left and right. The guy's taking a shitload of damage. And I just think he's really going to suffer heavily in this fight on the feet, right? I mean, there's one range at which Leon ain't that good in, and that's the boxing range. But that's the hardest range to get that guy in. And even when you're in that boxing range, he's almost impossible to hit there too. People are kind of underestimating this guy's defense. And I already brought this up, but if you think about Kamaru Usman and all the people that he's fought, he's actually had a pretty easy time hitting them, an easy time grazing their chin, especially with that threat of the takedown. I mean, I really do think that people kind of gloss over how important it is for Leon to shut down Usman on the feet and hardly get touched in that fight. Like, we rarely ever see Usman rendered that ineffective. And Colby, just like Usman, is a guy that really needs to set those takedowns up with the striking. I just think that because he's not as fast as he was in his prime, he's taken a lot of damage, he's got a little bit of ring rust. I mean, let's be honest, Colby has shown ring rust in that rematch with Usman. He shit his pants, right? It wasn't the best version of himself. He was reluctant to engage early on. And it's going to be a lot easier said than done for Colby to go out there to bite down on the mouthpiece and to get moving like a man on a mission, right? I mean, he's going to have to accept a lot of punishment. And this guy has taken a lot of damage throughout his career. And I'm going to show you a sequence that really displays the level of striking of Leon Edwards. And not only his level of striking, but really displays the contrast between him and Usman, because he just makes him look silly. This is a sequence from the 5th round that you guys have to look at, and it just showcases everything. So Usman's pressuring Leon here. He throws a jab. Leon parries that jab and cracks him with a straight left hand to the jaw, right? Usman retaliates here. He's going to throw a lead hook. Edwards slips out of the way, rolls with it, rolls over another right hand, and then he's going to feint. Kamaru ducks. He reacts heavily to the feint. He throws another lead hook. Leon expects it. He dips out of the way and counters with a big rear uppercut to the ribs of Usman. Usman, bamboozled, dips his head. Leon gets a hold of him, knees him to the chin, right? And now he's going to hit him with the elbow on the jaw. He disengages, hits him with a body shot. This shot selection, like the ability for him to just bamboozle his opponents, to feint and get them to bite on those feints, to draw reactions out of them. Colby is biting off more than he can chew. Like, there's going to be a massive discrepancy of the skill when it comes to the striking. We've never seen Colby deal with anything like this. This is a guy that needs a high volume of striking to land in order to set up his takedowns. Again, like Kamaru, These guys need to get the volume out there to set those things up. And if that doesn't work, their takedowns are a lot more predictable. And I think that Leon is going to be able to deal with those takedowns just fine because he's big, in his prime, strong, he's got good cardio, and he's got really good jiu-jitsu on top of that. So I think that this is actually a pretty easy fight to pick. All right. And I get it. Colby can win this fight. And I could give you a few reasons as to why, but I can give you a reason for every single year that Colby's been living on this planet, 35 of them, for why he loses as well. There are more reasons to go against him, and so I'm going with Leon. Maybe at some point he can hurt Colby with like a knee to the jaw in the clinch or with a body shot, and I think that the way Leon would finish this fight, aside from the classic head kick, and I don't think that's going to land because Colby Covington's going to have his guard up high, the way that I see him finishing this fight would probably be like a body shot, like a hard roundhouse kick to the body. I think Colby's going to be hurting in this fight big time. It's going to be a sad moment. He's going to be the guy that's put on a TikTok edit where there's this, Sigma vibe, and it's going to be like he was just always destined to be second place, and then it's like da-na-na, da-na-na-na, some shit like that, and it's going to be Colby Covington sticking out his tongue. He's saying, what? And everyone's going to be saying, man, best ever, bro. And he's not going to win the title. I mean, he might, but I just don't think it's likely, to be honest, right? Colby, if he gets the ball rolling early, if he bites down on that mouthpiece and is willing to take risks, he could get this one done. But I just think Leon's going to make him look silly. I think that the skill gap on the feet is too great to not acknowledge. And I'm going with Edwards. And I also don't think that Colby's trash talk is going to play a factor here. Leon has heard it all. Edwards, scissor hands, Leon Scott. Colby's going to talk trash about the glove grabs and the cage grabs, and that is definitely something that he should bring up, and I hope that he's vocal during the fight because Leon Edwards is a cheap fighter in that regard. He does try to get away with a lot of nonsense, so hopefully we don't see any of that. But yeah, I'm going with Leon. I think he's too good for Colby. I think his cardio is going to hold up, and I think the people are glossing over the fact that he looked amazing in the later rounds against Usman. That's a similar stylistic matchup. Colby's 35. He's looking 35. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leon Edwards, 49-46. Until next time.